And welcome back to PSA TV. This is the Wake Up Call. Joining me via the telephone this morning, I have the former Police Service Social and Welfare Association President, Mr. Michael Seals. Good morning to you, Mr. Seals.
Good morning to you.
And how are you this morning?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure as always. Let's get straight into it. In 2016, you were granted bail of $75,000, and you were charged for making a seditious statement on June 24th of the previous year. That would have been again almost a year after making the alleged seditious statements. We've recently seen the president of the Public Services Association, Mr. Watson Duke, being charged under the same seditious act. Your thoughts on it, seeing that you were one of, the few people charged under this act previously?
Well, my thoughts are very simple because you have to look at some of the arguments that have been circling the environment and the discourse publicly. Firstly, the discussion should surround around what the law says. And for example, a lot of the persons are making a lot of argument concerning whether his statement was seditious or had a seditious intent. And then the question was, I can speak on my behalf in terms of my statement, whether it was seditious or it was a seditious intent. So the question is, what is the threshold for any statement to be seditious? And it's easily blown out of context when we don't understand the application of the law in relation to arrive at a decision that a statement is seditious or not. Certainly the Director of Public Prosecution is well poised to make its determination, but I think it's a very ticklish issue as to how that determination is made based on the current standing of the law and the development of the law over time in various jurisdictions. And that, I think, is really where there's a gray matter. There isn't the issue of what it's so clear-cut as persons may seem to suggest. And then when you go to the court, you look at whether that person would in fact be convicted or not. So, and I think I have learned a lot in relation to my charges and in relation to the representation that I got and the way the case unfolded, and even some of the considerations that were not taken into account in prosecuting the matter, as well as the representation I got in defending the matter. Because the magistrate made some very statements that was very clear that you have to understand it is something left to the natural observer in making its determination. So it's a ticklish area.
Yeah, I do agree. But we have here that, this is an act that was repealed in England a long time ago. But here it is, we've been using this said act, no amendments, no repeals either, and it's still something that we've been seeing off late. We have recently the head of the Mahasabha, Mr. Satmaraj, as well, being questioned under the Seditious Act. So, it brings into question freedom of speech, freedom of expression, a lot of legal ramifications as well.
Well, let me look from a professional standpoint, because from a professional standpoint, you have to apply what you look at being reasonable, because the fact is this: now, what may be reasonable for you may not be reasonable for me, and that's the yardstick that will be used in any event. I know a lot of persons would have been making a lot of noise there, but a great chorus, some of the upstanding citizens in Trinidad and Tobago, speaking about what they think about the statement made, or any statement made in the past in relation to the Seditious Act. Still, they are now looking at everybody's statement who are in public life to now draw them into the whole question of whether their statements are in fact seditious or not.
Yes.
It is in fact correct that yes, some of the jurisdictions, they have now either repealed the law altogether, or the law has been amended to suit the particular environment. And that's one of the unique things. And on that point, we are in a country where we can determine what we want as the law. And that must not just be by simply looking at the debate in parliament by parliamentarians, but as a country saying what we want as a standard for this law. It has started a national discussion. I think the national discussion should continue, and we should determine whether or not we want it repealed, we want it amended. In fact, whether we are in fact going to encourage free speech to such an extent in terms of how we live our lives and how we operate in the future.
But you personally, would you support the repeal of this act?
Well, to say to repeal the act is it's about looking at what other jurisdictions would do. From a mature point, for me personally, I would say yes, the act needs looking at critically and to think whether it is in fact one that should exist at this present time. If I am to put my actual thoughts into it, I think that it's a little too easy for someone to end up on the wrong side of the law when the intent may not be what they actually say. And the point is, comes from our culture, our heritage in terms of how we speak, and easily how the act can capture you and treat you as a common criminal. So I think there's where we need to go in terms of whether it needs to look at, in terms of whether it needs to be repealed or whether it needs to be amended. But something must be done because I think it's time the country grew in terms of what we look at in terms of free speech.
And seeing that you were charged with your bail was 75,000. I mean, comparing that to 250,000, a lot of people found that the figures were a bit odd, and the charge was a bit too harsh as well.
The charges I wouldn't be speaking about because the charges is no different from the charges that I got. So that's a difference because what they do is capture the speech that is offending to lay the charges. So basically it's the same sections. I think the question of the bail, it's again left to the discretion of the magistrate. In my case, there was a warrant of arrest and that bail was endorsed based on that warrant of arrest. And it's really a discretion by the judicial officer in terms of what he thinks is necessary in order to bring that person to court and secure his attendance by way of a surety. So I think that's really where that is. So I do think that we should make any ramifications in terms of its existence, in terms of the disparity. I don't think I would want to go there because it's a question again of the judicial officer taking what is necessary to ensure attendance.
Yeah, rightly so. Mr. Seals, I want to thank you so much for your contribution this morning to our show. And I guess only time will tell what happens through this Sedition Act.
Yes, we will see.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, just a brief conversation there with the former president of the Police Service Social and Welfare Association. In 2016, he was, of course, the secretary of the association, and he was charged under the Seditious Act and was granted bail of $75,000. Coming up after news, we're going to be chatting with Dr. Wayne Kublal Singh. Later on, we have members from the Seamstress and Tailors Association coming in this morning. Stay with us.